That's a big question. I guess the short version or the short answer is I'm the founding editor-in-chief of Design Anthology magazine. The magazine this year is celebrating 10 years. And I guess that's probably the most succinct answer, but I come from a background of textile design and interior design. And I guess founding the magazine was a way to kind of accumulate all of that, that passion for design and bring that to Asia. Look, I think that, given my experience with the magazine and the focus that we have on Asia and the amount of incredible designers that we've written about and met over the last decade, it really felt like there was a missing piece in the puzzle in terms of the industry here. There's so many incredibly talented designers, there's makers and craftspeople and industry, but I think it was really clear before Emerge that we were missing a platform like this in this region where designers can show their work, they can meet their colleagues and contemporaries, and they can network with makers and manufacturers and hopefully show their work to a regional audience. So that's where Emerge came from. You're right, so we're in the third year of Emerge this year, which is really exciting. It sort of came about because the Design Singapore Council, who I have a huge amount of respect for, I think they had this vision and foresight to see and recognise that there was a need for a platform like this in Asia. They reached out to me, I think it would be 2021 now, I'm losing track of years, but they asked me if it was something that I'd be interested in curating. The former executive director, Mark Wee, approached me. We'd known each other for a number of years and he knew that I had a pretty extensive network of designers around the region, and they approached me to see if I'd be interested in curating this showcase. And so together we really formulated what Emerge would be, the focus of which countries, the number of designers, the kinds of products that we would show, and kind of all of those details. So that's really how Emerge came about. And so the first year we really felt that it was important to kind of give the audience a real introduction to the design industry in Southeast Asia, and to kind of give them a bit of a snapshot about where we're at. So Emerge, for anyone that doesn't know, focuses solely on Southeast Asia, and that is specifically Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam, Philippines and Indonesia. So 6 really interesting countries, but I think perhaps aside from Singapore, countries that aren't as well recognised for design internationally. So I think it's a really interesting focus to be able to give those countries a little bit of the limelight. So the first year we curated the show around materiality, and we started out with a long list of, I think it was about 600 designers, and that still is just scratching the surface. I think that just goes to show how much talent there is in the region. But the process started by me looking through all of the work that they were currently producing and finding some commonalities in their work in terms of the material exploration and what they were looking at in their sort of personal practice and these self-initiated projects. And so the curatorial team came up with 4 groups of the ways in which and the types of materials that the designers were working with. And so that was the focus of the first year. And then last year, the second edition of Emerge, we felt that the natural next step from looking at materials was to take a look at how the designers were actually making their work. So we, again, went back to the long list, and I think looking at the current work that they were producing, could see that there was a really wide variety of ways in which they were getting their work made and getting their ideas to life. So it's, anything from, very handcrafted, very traditional techniques to very industrial, mass-produced, and then quite a wide variety in between those two spectrums. And so it was all about making and production essentially last year. And so, those 2 different curatorial focuses we felt were a great way to introduce an audience that perhaps isn't familiar with the industry here, and gives them a bit of a snapshot as to where we're at, I guess, essentially. So the focus remains on those 6 countries. Each year we've shown, it's been over 50 designers. and about 150 individual pieces of work. So it's quite a substantial show. It's actually really quite large. Fast forward to this year, which we're obviously very excited about to do the third edition. So, looking at where we were before, this year we've decided that the idea would be to kind of curate the show with a bit more of a gallery-like setting and a gallery kind of focus. And so we've come up with this, I like to call it a provocation. It's a statement that the designers will respond to, and they'll produce work or show work that kind of responds to this curatorial approach or this curatorial manifesto. And so the idea this year is to look at the idea of value. And, we kind of felt that was a really interesting idea, that there's a very long history of design and making and craft in the region, so many different languages and cultures, that to look at value allows us to explore a whole range of different things, because it's a very personal idea. What do we value? Who gets to decide what is valuable? Where does the value come from? And so I think that it's going to be a really interesting and exciting show to have these designers responding to this idea, and I guess showing work that has a little bit more of a storytelling or a narrative kind of approach, rather than sort of very literally looking at what they're making and how they're making it. So it's a bit of a different idea this year. Look, the number, it's an interesting question. Is it too many or too little? I feel like it's probably just about the right amount. Anything less than that, I think the show wouldn't feel so substantial. I think, having this number of designers gives it a lot of impact and a lot of impetus. It carries a lot of weight. I think it sends a really strong message internationally that there is an incredible amount of, talent in the region. The show is called Emerge. We've always tried to showcase emerging designers. And I guess within that, we've had the work of very recent graduates to some names that are perhaps a little bit more established in the region and may be, well known to some people. So it's a bit of a broad spectrum. This year, we hope to have a special section just dedicated to recent graduates, so it will be more focused on the emerging. I think it's a good number. Anything more than that would probably be too many and far too much for me to try and organise with the apprentice that we have every year. I think the challenges that the designers face are many, actually. Designers are often taught creativity. They aren't necessarily always taught or guided in how to show their work and how to speak to potential clients. They don't always understand the commercial side of things. So I think a showcase like this is really important because it has the commercial aspect to it. We plan to sell the work this year. That's always been a part of the show, but it will be a much stronger focus this year. But obviously having myself, on board as the curator, the idea is to be able to guide them through this process and enable them to be able to show their work on other platforms or with other galleries, or connect them to other manufacturers. So it's an important platform that gets them in front of all of the visitors that find, the international media that comes to Singapore for the event, but also ideally all of those commercial outcomes, which are really, really important for young designers to have a sustainable business. Look, I think the best way is to just reach out to me directly. We have a process that we go through that we try to make quite rigorous. The benefit that I've had throughout the last decade is that I've met so many of these designers, and I think a number of them have become very dear friends. So it's important for me to remove myself and the personal from the process. It needs to be a rigorous process. It's about the work. It's not about the designers. So it's crucial, I think, to be able to talk about your work. If they want to send me a portfolio or a submission of work that they would like to show at Emerge, we're very open to that, and I would love to see some new faces and some new names on the list this year. But I think the most important thing is to just be responsive. It's a really big project for myself and my team to organise. I think it's really key that people stay connected and are responsive, and I guess are able to talk about their work. I think those would be the main tips that I would share.